Welcome to the Golf and Fitness Show, brought to you by PGA Tour Active, and I'm your host, Cory Gregory. Ooh, on today's show, we have the pioneer of golf-specific training. He's developed a methodology for golfers that has helped three players, Vijay Singh, Brooks Koepka, and the 2020 Masters champion himself, Dustin Johnson, reach the #1 position in the world golf rankings. He has been training PGA and LPGA Tour professionals for over 20 years. I want to welcome to the show the man himself, Joey D. What's up, Joey?
Hey, good morning.
So, man, I got to tell you, being in the game for 20 years in traditional fitness, reading about your success, man, it was awesome. It's inspiring. And just like, I'm so excited to talk to you about this kind of path. And really, most recently, one of your teammates, one of your family members, Dustin Johnson, winning the Masters last weekend. Like, what's that feel like?
I'm still, kind of in that state of euphoria. I think because you just can't imagine that that's the result. You always go in with the hope that, hard work is really the key to success, and the passion that he has had his whole career. To see that pay off in the, I would think it's the most coveted, title to have in all of the world of golf. And I don't disrespect any other major, any other event, but the Masters is something unique and special. I think we all could agree that it is arguably one of the events that you want to have on your resume that really kind of separates you from the rest of the world.
Oh, absolutely. Talk about the emotions you saw him display. It was amazing to me as a sports fan.
Yeah, I think that, Dustin is always somebody that the media, the press, the commentators, the personalities in golf, they kind of build him up as this guy that has no real, I wouldn't say emotion, but he doesn't have a lot of, highs and lows on the golf course. He's very consistent, and yep. Dustin seems like they always talk about that's the personality that you need to play great golf. But deeper down, I think there's a young man that became a man, and watching him mature as a father first and foremost, and and his relationship with his significant other, Alina, and watching them raise those children, I've seen that kind of play into his golf, and he basically showed me a whole different Dustin than I've ever seen before. I mean, somebody who displayed a calmness, but yet a maturity on the golf course that I've never seen. I've been with him for a decade.
Wow.
And to see that emotion at the end where he said, I couldn't gather myself. I don't know if there was a dry tear in all of golf, a dry face in all of golf, watching those tears fall. And that's, I myself, kind of through time, and I think you would appreciate this being in the business. I think you represent as a mentor to your students,
yep,
like this pillar of strength, right?
Yep.
I found myself like watching this grown man who's like a brother, like a little brother, to show the world vulnerability is something that's hard maybe for all of us, but to watch that, it humanized him to the point where people go, well, maybe he's not that guy you see out there that's affected by nothing. I think it affected him to the point where he hit that all-time high in his career. And to be a part of that on his inner circle was most humbling experience. I have more gratitude in that moment than I've ever had in my career.
Well, and I think when the emotion overtakes you to a point where you don't want to feel like that, you don't want to display that maybe as a man, but it's so deep that you have no choice. And that's really what you saw, which was complete vulnerability, which a lot of people don't show. And I think the human factor, he has amazing one-liners. He looks like he doesn't take stuff serious. At least the media kind of shows him that way from time to time. But you saw this dude was in the biggest moment essentially of his career, showed you that he's a little kid that has busted his tail, matured into a grown man like you just saw. And then the confidence he displayed coming down the stretch, bro. You see that in the gym, that helps build it too. It was truly amazing, Joey.
Yeah, I to be a part of something like that, to tell all of your listeners in the world, you have to kind of step back a little bit and recognize if you take things for granted and say things in the world of coaching or mentoring, or I deserve that because I earned it, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't look at it like that anymore. I look at it as what a humbling experience and opportunity for the world. You're sitting behind that mic because people need information from you, and information is opportunity to grow.
Yep.
And that's what Dustin did. He gave us all an opportunity. And this is the biggest thing. People say, what do you think is the difference? How's your relationship lasted so long? And you know, it's about trust.
Yep.
And when you build trust, whether you're a Tom Brady and a Bill Belichick in that dynasty, or you're Nick Saban with his success, this constant, like, you see people just gravitate towards these coaches and these experiences of these, you know, amazing dynasties. And Dustin is somewhat of an anomaly, because he's now, I think, viewed as a completely different, you know, golfer, an athlete than he's ever been before. So I found myself just having the most amazing amount of gratitude for really what the world is asking you for. And then that's why I'm on your show right now. So yeah, I'm grateful to all the listeners and the players and the fans.
Yeah, I'm so pumped that this type of material is going to be more, as you have brought it to light. I mean, Joey, really being the pioneer of this entire thing. And I'm a person that has always been in fitness. So my grandfather taught me how to lift weights and golf. Those are things we did from 12 years old to now 42, and something I'll do with my family. And so even though I'm not a great golfer, I love the game, respect the game, and I've always watched it. And it's like, to be able to mesh these worlds like you've been able to do and then see it at this level of success. That's why, as an interviewer, I can't wait to bring it out even more, because there's a lot of people that enjoy both, and they've clashed over time. And as you saw early in your career, right? But talk about Dustin's early assessment. When he came in to see you, what was kind of your original assessment in the evolution of his training? Like what really showed up, you know, when you originally met him, and say, oh, I know, you know, we can get stronger here, or hamstrings, or, you know, obliques, or what were things that kind of were essentially gleaming that, you know, your methodology could really help?
That's a great question. And I think as I look back a decade ago, I saw sort of like maybe when you look in the horse racing world, as these trainers and owners look to buy these amazing horses that have to have an ability to be able to run and perform at a level of getting to the Kentucky Derby, but they're not trained yet. And you know that this animal has this majestic, like, beauty and opportunity to look at this unharnessed strength. And I look at Dustin. When Austin will always say, somebody will go, hey, AJ, the other caddies in that whole, like, kind of that world where they poke back and forth. He goes, I like my horse's chance to run to the victory line this week. And Dustin was like some Mustang that you had to harness, and then give him you had to give him the opportunity to trust you. And with that, his work ethic, because he said it in that interview with that gal, I forget her name. She did such a great job, by the way, in that interview. She said, I know that you work hard. And when he was trying to say, yes, I work hard, he couldn't gather himself. That's really what I've watched, was this raw talent of an athlete that if you gave him another gear and the opportunity to learn how to, as an individual, put all of those skill sets from your world, right, the train world, and then you really put that together with understanding where he is in his mind, body, and his golf swing, then you sort of build this foundation, and then you just keep building till they get to the top and peak.
Yeah, amazing. And to be able to match all those things up, which is what you were talking about, you have to understand the game in your exact profession to be able to match those up with a raw talent like himself that, you know, is ready to come out the gate, but just needs molded a certain way. What do you think was the biggest key to his training this last offseason and contributed to this current success that we're seeing as the newest champion of the Masters?
It was overcoming the surgery on his knee. And we worked with a guy named Dr. Ed Smith down in Wellington, who spent 30 years in Major League Baseball. Still till this day, he's one of the most sought after rehab specialists, master PT. And he worked with Dr. Andrews, and he worked with so many doctors and orthopedic surgeons, and he understood at a very high level the surgical procedure and how the rehabilitation for Dustin as a golfer. So I think the biggest factor was Dustin having the confidence to stand at address and trust the driver, because you and I know that people will say there are many facets of the game, and we all have opinions as coaches, trainers, athletes, professionals that have been in this world, that have the right to have an opinion, right? But for Dustin, it was, does he have the confidence to get through the ball and be stable on his left side? So that was the catalyst that said, I now need to rebuild my body, because he felt weak and he knew he was vulnerable, and he had been very sedentary through that process. Although we never missed a day of rehab, there was this kind of uncertainty about, will I be able to play at this high level again? And then the doubt comes in with the world of the media and the personalities on the Golf Channel, because they're very influential. So that can, if you listen to too much speculation, it can kind of get into your head and go, well, maybe they're right. So he stayed away from that, and he focused on, first, let's get the knee right, and then let's build the body from the ground up again. And I think it fueled him to the point that he became, almost obsessed about what did that mean and how would that work back into a tournament schedule. And as you know, we looked at COVID, that really has changed the world as we know it, and golf shut down like every other sport. But what happened with us is, and if we think about this and kind of bring it up again, we had like 14 out of 16 straight weeks. That's a lot of play, and people don't realize, unlike the NFL, unlike the NBA, unlike the other sports that maybe, they have the opportunity to go to a 2 days and then they play and then they come home. Well, you're away 14 out of 16 weeks. You now have to structure, how do you get through that? And that plays into, do you sleep right? Do you eat right? Do you train right? Do you play right? And every week is a different bed. Every week is a different venue. Every week you're on a plane, and the recovery from that is hard. So I think people could even appreciate more that COVID basically gave us an opportunity to look at, how do we now, as coaches, players, chefs, athletes, the tour itself did an amazing job hiring the labs that work with us every week to give us an opportunity to say, safety first. How do we get through this? And Dustin, I think, took all of that so seriously. And, I look back a year, and he just basically made this major commitment to go, I'm going to be back to as good as I was when I was playing my best.
Yeah.
And they asked him that just recently, is this as good as your best? Well, what do you think? I mean, you're the host.
Yeah, absolutely. It's staggering when you put all that together, Joey, to go 14 weeks on a repaired knee after, when you put that all together, that makes this even more insane. And how much more important that, all the rehab, all the stuff that y'all did, the things on the road, just the travel alone into the recovery off the travel was insane, that at that level. So that even goes to show how much more of, spectacular that truly was.
Just to give you all a peek into Dustin's world, without disrespecting his privacy, is the tour hooked up with this company, the Whoop, and I'm not paid by them, right?
Yeah,
So
I've heard it's pretty amazing.
This is not a paid advertisement. This is an opportunity, and I always say, what are people most interested in? Why will your show be successful? Because it's basically, people seek information, and instead of going to the world of the unknown, which is, let's Google stuff, let's go to YouTube. And see if we can figure out 30 to 50 to 100 different things, and what do we pick? So this company gave us in golf, they came out at the Memorial and they introduced this to us. And it's about, the biggest thing that you collect is data information, right? It's heart rate variability and recovery, right? Because we all can get devices that tell us how much we walk, like pedometers, or how many calories do we burn. But what's more important is, people always should understand, where Dustin is really dialed in is about nutrition recovery. And I think sleep, as you could talk about as a trainer, I mean, when you don't recover after a massive session, you're not ready to go lift. You're not ready to put back and forth your best effort. What people might not realize about professional golfers is their day isn't a Sunday where it's 80 degrees and perfect weather. And you see these beautiful golf courses all over the world. They start sometimes, we start at 4 a.m. and the night doesn't end until 8 or 9 o'clock. Yeah. And there are many days like that. So recovery is the key, I think, to maybe information for people, an opportunity to say, gosh, I didn't realize that. So people, take a peek at that. Try to work a little bit more on your sleep, your recovery, your hydration, your nutrition. To be a better golfer, there are things that you have to do, just not like hitting balls at the driving range. It's what it goes into the human body to help, because the club won't move until you pick it up, right?
Yeah, facts.
Last time I checked, that club doesn't move until the human body starts to move it.
Well, what I loved about the Whoop Band, and once again, I'm not paid by it either, but used it, was the latency, how fast I fell asleep, what my REM sleep was, what my deep sleep, like the quality and understanding. Because I run a kind of a crazy schedule. I train it every morning at 4 a.m. and kind of running, you know, as we all burning the candles at both ends at times. And so being able to see, hey, you are falling asleep this period of time, you were in deep sleep for this amount of time, and whether you got 7 hours or 4 hours or 6 hours, where the quality was. And yeah, that was the first time that had an accurate reading on what I think I already knew, but that went ahead and just reconfirmed it so I could, you know, just continue the process that I thought was successful. And a lot of people don't take it that serious, and they think, oh, I'm sleeping real good quality, but they might have woke up 7 times during the night, but not really knew it. And so that was really interesting about that. And it's good to hear that he's dialed into that. I got some practical app stuff for the listener. So what are a few exercises that Dustin uses on a regular basis when he comes to see you or on the road that we can tell the listeners that they should be looking at doing a few times a week or daily or whatnot? What's a few pieces of advice you got for every average hack out here like me that's trying to get just a little bit more distance or a little bit more turn ratio or club speed?
Yeah, I like that question. And I think that if we keep things more simplistic for people, sometimes this phrase that we've tried to, you know, coin here at our academy in Jupiter, Florida, is sometimes less is more. So before we get anybody involved, we consider what is a person's, an individual's idea of a warm-up. What does that really mean? And for us, what it means is actually the brain sending signals to what you're about to ask the body to do. So that kind of makes sense to people.
Love it.
Because if your brain, which is most people in the general realm of commonality, like people say, keep it simple, your brain actually sends signals to your body. And if you're going to be somebody who's going to do a 5K on a Saturday morning, your brain has to send signals to what is your body going to do to run a 5K? Are you going to go swim, you know, and bike and run on a triathlon? What does your body have to do? What signals it sends? So in golf, what we like to say is, Dustin likes to say, let's start with ground activation. And we get on a mat and we basically do what you can tell the world. I don't even have to tell you, you're an expert in this, is we basically will start, you know, on a mat, and we'll get into a bridge position. And from there, he basically does a bridge where he comes up to neutral spine, he activates his glutes, and then he does it with his right leg only and his left leg only. And then we flip over and do a simple side plank. And then we do a simple side plank and lift one leg to create more load, right and left. And then we roll over and we just round the back and arch the back. And people call it bird dog. They call it cat dog. It's got so many names. So you move the spine and create mobility. And then elbow drops, where you open the rib cage and you work around, because if you look at the golf swing, look at the common position of where the club, if you set it at parallel, it's very similar movement patterns. So you open these things up, you do the things that make sense. And then when you talk about what's more rotation, well, we'll stand up, and then from there we do a little bit more active movements. So he'll step and he'll put a club on his shoulders, and he'll step in that front lunge position, and he'll rotate, you know, to his backswing, and then he'll use the other leg step, more of a lunge position, like an abbreviated lunge, and then he'll go to his follow through. So these are passive, but great opportunities to get your body ready to go do what you would do
Yeah.
in the gym, so to speak, to start working on your golf specific body.
Yeah, it's warming up through motions that you're going to utilize on the course.
He's a big advocate of that. And then he's a big advocate of bands, because bands, and we use split bands. So they attach at a point at the front, but they're bilateral. The bands are two independent handles. And then he'll actually set himself in his position at address, like with the driver, and he'll take that arm and move it all the way back. And then he'll go ahead and go to the follow through all the way to completion. And then he'll do standing 90-90s, because I think what people should always try to realize is if you do a good job in the golf swing, the best teaching professionals in the world would say, as that arm comes up, it actually creates that 90-degree position at the top. So Dustin's aware of the things he's got to get to start to work. And those are just simple movements. And then he'll usually take a band and hold it with two hands, and he'll rotate it all the way to his backswing position. And then he'll rotate it all the way to his follow through position. If you look at the waist from your basic belt buckle to the top of your shoulders, you would call that box maybe the upper part of your core. He activates that with these big rotational movements, because the further you move away from that point of load, or the closer you move to that load, you create more load by the further from the distance to the load point, right? So hence, why does the driver go farther than a wedge? Because you've got a greater extension with greater rotation, right? So Dustin does these things that are very methodical again and again and again. So that's the pre-stuff that he does. And Dustin is a very big advocate of consistency. He doesn't mess around with lots of new ideas. He sticks to basics, probably like you have for 20 plus years as a professional trainer. He loves like things on a exercise ball, because the ball is an unstable surface. And then we'll do movements like basic one-arm dumbbell press with upper thoracic rotation, right? Because if you're not stable on the golf on a stability ball, so when something is unstable or unbalanced below you, the brain is going, well, I have to find that center of balance, right? And then that just leads me into one of our books called the Eye of the Swing, right? And we talk about what happens around the center of the spine as golfers work to get stronger. Anybody can pick this up and download it for free. We love information that's opportunity for players to get better. But Dustin likes to do things that are independent or isolateral, because it creates opportunity for good balance in the body, which is then balance in the golf swing. So he likes those things, dumbbells on balls and side to side, torso twists. And he likes things that create opportunity for him to get strong in balance.
Love it. So as you go through the dynamic warm up, which is what we kind of refer to that in most fitness professionals, which is what you through movement, different patterns. Then as you structure the workout, Joey, do you then go into a portion of certain strength on certain days? And then kind of what then do you finish with kind of at the end of the session? Or is that how you structure it? Or please, kind of let us in on that.
That's pretty spot on. And what we do is on a Monday, we'll do the movements that require the most recovery.
Love it.
So Dustin is an advocate of Olympic lifts that are in a controlled environment. He never trains to break records. He trains with the proper amount of resistance, the proper form and range of motion. And you can explain this best as the professional. The reason why Olympic movements have kind of resurged themselves, you can do a squat with a broomstick. You can do an air squat because what it does is it basically takes the entire body and activates it and gives you opportunity to do things that, because if you look at evolution, babies, as the birthing process happens and the birth process happens, babies can't do anything because they've never created that ability to have their body do things like, first you got to crawl before you walk, and you got to walk before you run, and before you do. So it's the same thing with an Olympic lift. It's a very involved movement, that it's a technical movement, right?
Very technical.
And Dustin likes and has spent 20 years. So I always tell people,
I love that.
Don't do what he does. Take what he does that might work for you and slowly integrate it into a routine that if you think that's who you want to role model yourself after, he's taken 20 years to learn how to do this. And he is somebody that is a very critical athlete about watch my form and let's never get out of that ideal position so we don't have anything to injure. And he likes the deadlift or a modified deadlift. He likes the ability to be able to do things like inverted pull-ups. But he does things that make sense, but he does things on a Monday, which we would call power day. And then on Tuesday, we'll move into the next part of our training, which then he starts to integrate. Let's work on the things in my body that give me an opportunity because I'm going to go start the program on Wednesday. So on Tuesday, we basically start the activation phase, which is now we'll work on things that require lots of band and like kettlebells and things that are driven off of one leg with dumbbells, like a Statue of Liberty, where he'll do a RDL, which is, you know, we call that in your world a Romanian deadlift, which is a one-handed movement, and he'll take that, you know, movement and bring it all the way up to the top of it's a very complicated set of movements. And then he'll take bands and he'll load them and he'll do split stance squats with rotation. And he does then on a Wednesday after we had that day, he'll go and he'll do all his balance and mobility work. And then we throw in med balls to do a whole speed process.
Love it.
Like he does speed work, like side to side rotational slams. And he'll do step fire follow through drills on a concrete wall where we take a med ball and he stands with 2 feet together and he has the ball like it's the club and he moves to his backswing and then he'll step left and he'll fire that ball through his golf swing into the wall. So these are these
so cool.
aggressive drills that people don't even know that he does, but they're very methodical. And then we go into this balance prescription where, you know, the fun part of it is he's always got to, I'm a very different, I actually believe in don't do like as I say, do as I do. So I've worked with him through our process for a decade together. And his big thing is he'll always try to get me on everything. Like, come on, old man, you can do it. Don't fall down. And it's this great opportunity to keep each other, you know, just constantly in this competitive mode. But he does it so methodical. And then by the time we get to Thursday, it's total body. And then his recovery work is done by Marnus, which he's a soft tissue specialist. And you know, it's his stretches in the morning, his soft tissue work at night. Like you think about the guys like Dustin and Brady and Michael Jordan and LeBron James. I mean, these guys talk about, you know, there's certain athletes that say, I'd spend $1 million a year on an investment. Pat Perez used to say, it's worth every penny to put, if your body is the thing that makes you a living, right?
Absolutely.
Then do what you have to do.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's great to hear. Like, so for instance, I love the practical application of pushing the coach too. Like, you're not going to go out and beat Dustin in golf, but can you challenge him because he calls you out on a certain movement and you're like, all right, dude, like that little bit of competition, even with the trainer, I think is huge. And that's one thing that I always kind of have with my athletes too, is obviously I could never deal with them with whatever their sport was, but the fact that I would get in the mix with them, they respected that. And I'm sure, Dustin, over the last 10 years, you're obviously in great shape. You've been in great shape for your entire career. It's like that's a different level when you're like that with the athlete, when it's family, when it's a push like that. Do you ever have to shut him down when he's cleaning something crazy and maybe the bar's crashing wrong or something, the bar's not close to him and you're like, dude, like you got to shut it down, or is he pretty good about that with himself? Or is there times where you got to go, hey, we got to take one more because I know that speed of that rep was there?
Yeah, he's really aware of that. But sometimes I think, like everybody could attest to this, if your ego is confident, that's the greatest opportunity to become successful, as a confident sports ego mind. But sometimes, you know, and this is just, you know, what happens to human beings. In competition, we can go a little bit too far, and that's when injury happens. So when I see him wanting to maybe push a couple of more reps where I know he's already peaked, that's where a coach's watchful eye comes in. So, is he still at 30? He's going to be 36. He just turned 36. Can he still, have that ability to want to compete with me, like rep for rep and pound for pound? Like you said, you're never going to beat a Dustin Johnson on the golf course, but maybe someday he'll catch me on the bike.
Yep.
He'll catch me in the gym. It isn't someday soon, but he'll catch me someday. I don't know when it is. I might have to be Gary Player's age, but he hasn't taught me yet. And that's still something that he respects and he loves is, I got you, bro. And I love that because he first of all keeps it safe, but he's always willing to take that calculated, shot at I got you rep for rep. And he loves that competitive part of what we do in the gym, but he's still very mindful of safety first.
Yeah. And like you mentioned at 36, is there something that you're just gonna, it's not like age, like Gary Player, obviously it is just a number, but at 36, was there things this year that over last year that you tailored back? Cause it seems like you probably pushed even more forward. So I don't know, like what's your assessment as a trainer as these guys do get older?
Well, Dustin's had a few injuries. One very unfortunate at Augusta a couple of years ago where he basically slipped on some wooden steps. And, the world made a mockery of it because it's always fun to poke at people. But I was actually at a friend's house out in California at Sherwood, and we were going to play an event out there. And I was at a buddy's house, and he had wooden steps, and the maid came the day before and put like that Bona cleaner with a little wax. And I almost slipped down a full flight of steps. My legs came out from underneath me. I grabbed the handrail, and it torqued my whole body so hard that my shoulder and my ribs were hurt for like 2 days. So his back has always been a little tentative and somewhat there's a lingering, we've worked hard on it, but there's this lingering, maybe soft tissue, not injury, but there's an area that has been affected. And the other thing that we had to dial back this year was his lower body work, because the knee still from time to time will act up based on, is he hurt? No. Do we get MRIs every 3 months to check in? Dr. Caldwell does it for us here in South Florida. He's an amazing man, amazing surgeon, and he's been an amazing part of Dustin's team. We always are mindful of it, but sometimes Dustin will say, my knee is a little sensitive today. So we've been very aware of like, how heavy do we go on squats, or how heavy will we use triplane lunge movement patterns with dumbbells? And like, what are we doing with a single leg extension in dorsiflexion or extension? Like, what are the things we're doing even with rehab work where he's compressing a towel underneath his knee in flexion, lifting it 3 to 4 inches and then compressing it down? Like, he's very aware of what those post injuries were to kind of not re-injure. So when you say dial it back, we've dialed back his lower body a little bit this year and kind of worked up again to where he's felt confident.
Yeah, it makes sense. And what I hear, and I want to kind of point out, is I hear multiple plane work constantly, right?
Yeah.
And being powerlifter and natural bodybuilder, kind of my life, a lot of it's in the same plane. And then when you don't work a lot of rotation, that's where some of the injuries come in our world. So it's like, talk about, that seems like the constant prescription of exercise is multiplane work.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that trainers, if they're looking, hopefully you'll get some people on your show and you yourself will give the world an opportunity to understand what's the difference between a general gym professional who's worked their whole career, they go to seminars and they understand, like, in the gym business, there's a way to train, but people go, what's the difference in golf fitness? And to your point, multiplanar work basically means when you look at the frontal plane or the transverse or the sagittal plane, like, what does it mean in a multiplanar movement pattern? Because when the golf swing starts, you're in an anatomical neutral position. Basically, you're at the strongest point of the human body, or you should be close to understanding where's my center. And then things start to move, but they have to move around your spine in time and space. They can't drift too far to the front or the back or the side. So when you think about people trying to learn about multiplanar movement patterns, I think that starts to get technical. But what you're saying to people is we have to learn how to work. Like, our bodies just don't walk or move forward. They basically move to the side, to the right or the left, or front or back. And I think that's an opportunity for people to say, if you want to be golf specific, actually first understand what does that mean, or sports specific.
Yep.
And we talk about in our new book, you got to be species specific first.
Yeah, facts.
Right? So as you progress, you learn more from guys like you, who I'm sure that I'll be a fan of your show going forward, because I love to always learn, even at my age, and
same.
You know, where my seniority is in my profession, you never stop learning, and we never stop doing research to figure out what we have to do to keep putting out good information. Yeah. So I love the fact that Dustin is a very big advocate of working at all three planes of movement.
Love it. Thanks for explaining that properly, Joey. That's great. Give us some insight on his nutrition. I think the fans would love to kind of hear, what have you seen, or whether you've helped him with it or seen him eating stuff around the gym? Like, what's kind of the concept Dustin follows in general?
Yeah, I love that question. And the fans should know that he's a creature of habit.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had 2 professional chefs in his career. We made the decision as a team, and he always includes us, to be able to say, what do you think about this? Because we all travel together, we eat together, we train together, we go to the court. So he's been very gracious and give us all an opportunity, and the trust that he has in me and him. His first chef was Inger Smith, was a wonderful lady. She was a vegan expert, and he tried that for a while, a couple of years, and then he decided that his body was still needing other things. And she had a wonderful stint with us for 2 years. Then he hired Chef Mike Parks. And basically Mike creates a diet of complete whole foods. It doesn't mean to people that we go to Whole Foods, which we do, but he'll create a diet that basically, you know, gives Dustin a 60% protein base, right? A 20% complex carbohydrate base, and a 20% essential fat base. So he'll look at meals with a lot of balance. So I'll give you an example. Dustin's, one of his favorite meals is sea bass with a very complex rice or grain. And then, you know, he'll eat like avocado, or he'll have any type of some medium chain triglyceride where the body needs an essential fat for its lubrication and the things that it does internally. So Dustin's breakfast that we had every day at the Masters is he'll eat farm fresh organic egg whites with spinach and vegetables, and Mike is a specialist in making like an oatmeal into a pancake. So he basically takes this oatmeal and he soaks it overnight. It's very complex, and he makes it with organic berries, strawberries, and blueberries. Dustin is he understands every 3 to 4 hours his nutritional intake. And then he's also very aware of how much hydration he needs a day, which for him is about 150 ounces of water. So
amazing.
That's a little peek into Dustin's stuff.
Yeah, that's great insight. One more thing that the fans don't know about Dustin Johnson that you know, that is probably one of the main factors of why we got to see what we did this weekend.
What is one of the things that people don't know about Dustin? I think Dustin is somebody that people wouldn't guess, that his very casual attitude. He is more, I would think, persistent about perfection, right? Like, it's something people don't know about him. I'll give you an example. So when he won Travelers this year, Chef Mike Parks and his brother AJ, they had an early morning round on Thursday. And AJ and Mike went to play golf. Dustin said to me after dinner, would you come to the driving range with me and watch me hit balls? But the day had already been almost 11 hours. So they left. He and I, we were right there at the golf course at a house right at the course, like a mile away. And he and I went back and spent an hour hitting balls. So he's very much a perfectionist. On the plane home, everybody was talking about Dustin and AJ's putting routine. And Brandel Chambly had mentioned he loved everything about his routine, but he wasn't crazy about how slow he gets with his putting. So once again, a very critical, Brandel's paid to be a shock jock, right? Like, One part of him is I respect the research he does. The other part I disagree with is he's very opinionated, right? Like he has an opinion, and I respect that. So Dustin said, AJ said, I like your chances. I read 98% of the putts. It's good enough, and you've done well enough. And Dustin goes, bull. BS.
Yeah, right.
we need to be 100%. And so that's
it.
the thing that people don't know. He's not as casual. Things do get to him. He just doesn't display it on the golf course. He's not happy that he missed. He only made 4 bogey. He wants perfection in the way that there is no such thing as perfection, right? So,
but the pursuit of it is everything, though.
Yeah, the pursuit of perfection, or what we call, there's no such thing as perfection, but there's permanent. So Dustin, to the world, you might not know, he is somewhat of a perfectionist.
Love it. Talk about the projects you're the most excited about in your world, Joey. I know you got the new website, you got the new book. Please let everyone know what's going on with you guys.
So I always say information is opportunity, and yourself, myself, all of our co-professionals in the world. I think one of the great opportunities we have is we have the world's attention finally. And it's only taken probably, for me, 2 decades, maybe for some other people, maybe for some other people just starting out. It's so for us doing the research, having the information, having the years of experience. My 2 new projects that I'm most excited about are my new book comes out, which I co-wrote with Coach Colby Wayne Touye, who is the coach of Justin Thomas and 10 other PGA Tour professionals. It's called Hang the Banner. And Hang the Banner is the title. It's the working title of our book. And basically what we did is, if you go on our website, in our academy, just like the Garden, the Boston Garden or Madison Square Garden, or, you look at these arenas where in the NBA, these banners hang, in the NHL, these banners hang. We did the same thing. We took and made banners, and every banner was to, it signified a win and hard work of our athletes in this facility, in this academy. And they basically line the walls. We have about a 25 or 8 foot ceiling height in our academy, and they just hang and line the complete walls. Wow. So Hang the Banner was our way to pay tribute to all of our professional PGA Tour pros and LPGA Tour pros for their hard work, that part of it and most of it, much of it is done here and then on the course, right? So we said, let's create this banner culture. And it kind of caught fire years ago. And it's one of the things that we joke about the most. But it's a serious thing for people. Hang the Banner is like another trophy that they pick up. And it's an opportunity for the world to see all of the wins that we have as a team that helped them achieve those things. And then, in that book, Hang the Banner, there's a world of information about, what you and I do, and then how did we transition that into golf. And people always say, well, what's in the water in Jupiter? Why do so many people come to your place, or why do so many people move to Jupiter, Florida? Because, basically it's become the mecca of golf for professional golfers. Yeah. Because the weather's great, the golf courses are phenomenal, and that's probably one of the reasons. Like, I had nothing to do with that. And then the other thing, the other thing is I'm really excited about is this hat you see me wearing is called Hit It Great. So my cousin and partner, who's just a brilliant man, he created this digital platform as technology changes, a streaming platform and then a training platform that's available in the App Store. And what you get on that is just tons and tons and tons of information that's tour proven, that you can go into and research, that might be right for you. And it's a platform of basic golf education and golf fitness opportunity. So the Hit It Great platform just launched probably 2 months ago. It's been a 2-year project in the making, and lots of wonderful people like our partners on our digital side, Brian Flanagan and his team, Kylan, and the other guys that work behind the scenes to build these opportunities to make the user interface really easy to access. And the information there's teams of people on a daily basis that bring that to the world. And we're really excited about that, because it's as the world has gone digital, information can be complicated to understand what's right for me. And I think what my team has done, my partners have done, is give the world an opportunity to say, this is a really good, platform for me to go on, and we do it 30 days for free. We don't ask for any credit cards. There's no nonsense. We don't believe in that. We believe that if you like what you see, you have the opportunity to go ahead and come aboard for as long as you want. So 2 things I'm really excited about is we help the world, provide the world with information that might not be right for everybody, but we hope it's right for you.
Yeah, that's great. And where can everyone find you on social media and your website?
Yeah, I think Joey D Golf, that's been the brand name for years. And then Hit It Great is the hititgreat.com is the other, easy way to get to our information. So, I think that with what you're doing, and I said this to this gentleman, John, from the New England Journal of Golf, the magazine, this wonderful publication, he was saying that information is more difficult to really get out to the world as writers or interviewers or show hosts. And I think that you guys all do a really great job of giving us an opportunity to speak to the world. So thank you for that. Thank you for your show. I'm excited for people to grow in this area of golf and fitness, understand what it means, how to apply it as an individual. Like, there's not one size that fits all. No. And I think that you're going to give us all an opportunity to really understand with all your hosts, and I'm grateful to be one of them, how we can all help.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joey. The timing of the interview, the insight from Dustin Johnson, it was amazing to speak with you today. And I'm your host, Cory Gregory. That's Joey D. Make sure you like and subscribe and share with all your friends. The Golf and Fitness Show, episode 2. We're out.
Thanks, Cory.
Yeah, thank you.